everybody. Welcome to episode 30 of the Drop Everything Now podcast. And the intro might sound a little different today because this is a little bit of a different episode. Steph and I are so busy with the end of the year and the crazy times that happen with the holiday. So it's just me today. It's just one of the Stephs. And it's really because so much has happened in the last couple weeks, actually week in general, that I wanted to talk about, specifically around You're Losing Me coming on streaming and all of the absolute chaos that Jack Antonoff caused. So I wanted to get on here and kind of talk through some of that, and more so really coming back to the Midnights album and thinking about it in terms of our new timeline and new info on our timeline and how is maybe more of a breakup album than any of us ever thought. So this will probably be a quick episode because it's just me and I don't know how to carry a conversation with just myself. I mean, I do it pretty well in general on a day-to-day basis because my cats don't answer me, but we're going to see how this goes because I really felt like I wanted to talk about it after listening to Midnights again and revisiting it and thinking about all these new different timelines. I guess I'll start with the information on the timeline. So Taylor Swift became the top artist, streaming artist on Spotify this year. So she released You're Losing Me from the vault onto streaming services. So obviously everybody freaked out. It's one of my favorite songs. I love the song so much. And, everybody was super pumped to have it. And then Jack Antonoff decided to post a picture in celebration of You're Losing Me coming out with the info on the date they wrote that, which is December 5th, 2021 is when they wrote it. Now, Midnights didn't come out till November 2022. Joe and Taylor didn't break up until, or at least it wasn't announced until spring-ish, early spring 2023. And we saw pictures of them together in early January and February of 2023. Everybody, or at least maybe me and maybe some others, I was thinking or You're Losing Me was sort of, from the vault, but in a way was written after Midnights, if that makes sense. Like, I'm sure they were struggling, but for me, I thought maybe was written at some point in 2022, when maybe towards the end of the year when they were having some trouble. Obviously, Midnights was already finished and out. So that's why it became the vault track that she released kind of special off to the side once they officially were announced as a breakup, to be like, here's what happened, guys. I don't know why this made so much sense to me. And granted, I think it made sense to me that they were probably struggling, right? For longer than we knew, because they've been together for so long, and it's hard to just be like, I'm going to throw this out at the first sign of trouble. But knowing now that she wrote that almost a year and a half before they announced their breakup is way longer than I even thought was possible. I didn't think they would have been struggling for that long, but in a way, it makes you rethink the whole timeline, right? It makes you rethink Folklore and Evermore. So you have Folklore and Evermore, which arguably she was writing, obviously not about herself, about different stories and stuff. But then you have songs on there like Tolerate It, that with this new information on You're Losing Me makes you think about it again and think about, wow, she is so good. And I do believe she is probably an empath, and can feel the feelings even if she hasn't experienced them herself. But Tolerate It, thinking about it now, it's like, man, maybe they were struggling then too. And that's why she could hit so deep with some of those lyrics. And I think about Tolerate It specifically because I think about Invisible String on Folklore and how both of them have a reference to barbed wire. So in Invisible String, which is a love song that we clearly believe was about Joe. I mean, it is. The yogurt shop, all these different things. Waitress said she looks, whatever. This is one about herself in the Folklore Evermore, period. So the something wrapped all of my past mistakes in barbed wire. Chains around my demons, wool to brave the seasons, one single thread of gold tied me to you. And then in Tolerate It, you were the man who threw blankets over my barbed wire. I always knew like there was like both of those barbed wire lyrics, right? Because it's very specific. Were in each of those songs, but I kind of just thought she liked the wording, like similar to how we've seen Casually Cruel in two different songs. And to be fair, that very well could be the case. She just liked to use that metaphor. But we also know that she's so specific in metaphors she uses for certain people. Or like if she uses something again, it's about the same. Like when you think of gold, how she always would tie that to Joe, like love songs with the color gold represented. So then it just makes me think of Invisible String and Tolerate It, both using barbed wire, being like, oh, shoot. Did she have more of a direct reference or feeling to Tolerate It than we even knew? And I guess I should also just say before I get any deeper into Midnights and the Midnights of it all, I understand, like, I'm not trying to rewrite history in terms of what she said Midnights is about. Midnights she framed as songs or things that kept me up in the night throughout my history. And I fully believe that that is what Midnights is about. Like, and I do think the re-recordings and dredging up things that she hasn't revisited in so long could definitely bring back thinking about those sleepless nights you had and the reasons you had them. But more and more, and especially knowing that You're Losing Me was written in the same exact time that the rest of Midnights was written, it does make me feel like pieces of her revisiting her past led to her also thinking about her current situation and where her future might be, and realizing that maybe Joe wasn't going to be in it anymore. And I think a lot of people go through that feeling of, in a relationship, if you're in a long-term relationship or whatever it might be, sometimes it's hard to let go of it. Sometimes you know, okay, this person probably is not my future or my forever, but should I pull the plug? Is it time? Like, what if it gets better? What if we, like, remember the good times we did have? Like, it could get better. It could get better. And I think she was going through that probably a long time, probably the last few years, especially knowing that You're Losing Me was written in 2021, at the end of 2021. And obviously, she kept it off Midnights originally. And I think it's mainly because she wanted to say, hey, this, like, I don't want to put this out there because I'm still thinking in my brain that maybe it's not completely over. Maybe we do have another shot. Like, maybe this can be fixed. So that's kind of the gist of what I'm thinking about in Midnights. I do fully believe that it is still about midnights of her past or sleepless nights of her past. And she's thinking about them again, especially since of all these re-recordings. But I do think she's looking at it in a sort of, from her current state, a melancholy way, and not necessarily from a, I am so happy, let's revisit this, but almost like a, am I happy? Do I need to revisit when I was unhappy before and maybe see if this is a similar, thing? I can't believe it was written in 2021. That still drives me so crazy. And before we get into Midnight, then let's talk about Jack Antonoff. So wild. I can't believe he did that. And also then a bunch of people were showing things that were coming out that like made it seem like Jack Antonoff maybe never really enjoyed Joe all that much. I never even heard the Anti-Hero remix that Bleachers did. And like sometimes I feel like everybody is an art bro lately and I'm just judging on a hill. Too big to, or oh my God. And then the Famous Baby, talking shit about your famous baby. Like, whoa. And then also people were finding in the Long Pond sessions, him like kind of like being like, wait, really? When she would mention that like Joe was the first one she, or Joe made the lyric of Exile or whatever, Betty, in like one shot or something. So you could kind of see that like maybe everybody around her that was close to her saw the huge gaps and the red flags in their relationship, and maybe like we're struggling to be happy for her in the last few months, years, whatever you want to call it, of their relationship. Because then even Keely Teller shared, how You're Losing Me's on streaming, like, thank God, finally. And then she liked a TikTok about the Anti-Hero lyrics from the Bleachers remix. So it makes me feel like maybe the people close to Taylor knew that this wasn't the forever relationship and were just kind of wanting her to express that or or to move on from it. And then obviously once she released You're Losing Me on streaming for the world to interact with, it really helped to push them to be like, yeah, we were not fans, and here's our subtle hints at maybe not being fans. Obviously, this is all total speculation. We have no clue. But it is interesting that he wanted to put it out there that song was written way before they broke up. I don't know. It's just like it was such a weird week. It was such a weird week. And then I'm not even going to get into Tree Paine coming for Dumois. There was so much in that I have such a problem with, from Dumois, not Tree Paine, obviously. And I think that might be a topic that Steph and I will cover the next time we talk, because this is really, this was really my revisit Midnight's word vomit that we're experiencing today. Okay. So anyway, let's get back to Midnight's then. So I'm not going to touch on every song. I'm going to touch on some songs that I was listening to lately or in the last week or so that I was like, whoa, like now that I'm listening to this and now that we know You're Losing Me wasn't written right at the end of their relationship, I'm seeing this with a different light, right? So first we'll talk about Lavender Haze, but obviously that one we've all thought about that one already, right? We've all thought Lavender Haze was a love song, sort of, at first. And then once You're Losing Me came out, everybody kind of went through the, whoa, maybe this was just her talking herself into things that he wanted in a relationship that she was okay with, and like making herself, almost convincing herself she was okay with not getting married or this or that. Like, I think, and then she deleted the voice or the TikTok about the Lavender Haze meaning. I mean, I know she did that a while ago, like after they broke up, but still, like, that almost makes me think that Lavender Haze is a little more cynical and not as we're in our love bubble as we thought. And you could kind of see it with the music video too. Like, the music video is not like heartwarming. And that reminds me of one other thing I want to touch on Midnight's as an album. I think there are songs on here about Joe and being happy. I do. I think when you're dragging a relationship on like that, there can be good days as much as there are bad days. And in those good days, you're probably thinking, this is going to work. We're going to make it through this, and we're going to be fine. And then there's the bad days that lead to other songs and feelings and thoughts that lead to some of these other songs we've gotten on Midnight. So I'm not saying that like they were never happy until like from when she wrote You're Losing Me to when they broke up. But I think she was allowing herself to be more critical of this relationship than maybe she had been in the past. And I think that's really a good thing to do, because then she wasn't stuck in her this is going to work out mindset. It was, okay, I'm looking at the good and the bad. So again, I think there are good things in here about Joe and like songs that she probably did right on good days, or maybe reflecting on their good relationship when it was in their, like, you know, honeymoon phase. But anyway, again, just all my thoughts being word vomit because I'm steering a conversation by myself and I don't know how I am doing. But anyway, okay. So Lavender Haze, yeah, I have my thoughts on that. And then Maroon, I do truly believe Maroon is not, well, I guess we could go back to Maroon potentially being a Cornelia Street counter, and now looking at it as they were struggling, like Maroon very well could be about Joe. Although she did mention like when we were at the concert in MetLife when she played Maroon, she said it was about something like years and years ago. So I'm gonna leave Maroon out of this for now. But I actually do have to say, like, did you see in the, oh my God, it was so crazy. The post Jack Antonoff's picture where it had the rosé on the counter, people looked it up and it was a screw top and it was called Gaslighter Rosé. Like, what is this? Like, how, if that, I mean, I don't even know how that can be a coincidence, but if that was a coincidence, that is so insane. But anyway, it does kind of remind me of like your roommate's cheap ass screw top rosé. But anyway, Antihero, I think we all know what that one's about, and that is Taylor just herself. Snow on the Beach. Snow on the Beach is interesting. I think it maybe was in the good days, honestly, and that's how I'm going to have to go. You wanting me tonight feels impossible, but it's coming down, no sound, snow on the beach. Like, I think maybe it was sort of, so Snow on the Beach maybe kind of reminds me of Glitch in a way. Glitch is obviously very much about Joe. She references 2,190 Days of Our Love Blackout, but she also references how it wasn't supposed to lead to that, right? We were supposed to be just friends. So Snow on the Beach almost feels maybe kind of in relation to the Glitch feelings, like, wow, this is so weird that this is happening. And like seems like it shouldn't be happening, but it is. And I'm going to be in the moment with it and enjoy it. Can't speak, afraid to jinx it. I don't even dare to wish it. Can this be a real thing? Can it? Like, I do think this was probably the early stages of Joe, and 100% similar to Glitch, where like, whoa, this is surprising me, but we should explore it. You're on your own, kid. I'm skipping because we know that's really just Taylor herself, or Taylor centric, I should say. Midnight Rain still feels like an interesting one because it's about the biggest takeaways I have in Midnight Rain are that like she doesn't want to, like he was ready for marriage and she wasn't. But you know, maybe that's from the early days. But again, that could just be too much speculation in terms of like, it might just be more general. Like, I'm still pushing my success. I don't want to settle down. Like, I'm still in this. So I do, you know, a more generic sort of vibe of like, I'm not done. Question, Harry Styles, not going to talk about it. Vigilante shit, no. Okay. The next two are kind of where I felt like I wanted to do this, or the reasons I wanted to do this. Bejeweled and Labyrinth. So for Bejeweled, I think we all kind of had the thought, right? Once they broke up, and then When You're Losing Me came out, that, wow, Bejeweled could be about Joe. But then in my head, at least, yeah, like it could have been. And like in my head back then, before I knew the day they wrote You're Losing Me, I thought, yes, definitely could be about Joe. But again, I thought maybe that they weren't as rough for so long that I thought, no, not about Joe. Like, it's probably just in general and can definitely relate to Joe, especially as they ended up and why everybody thinks they ended up breaking up, right? But I think we all thought it was maybe Calvin Harris. But, you know, now with the 2021 You're Losing Me recording date, it really could be about Joe. Like, and putting someone first only works when you're in their top 5. By the way, I'm going out tonight. Like, bringing back herself, like the person she was before him. And I don't know, like it definitely can have a spin to being about Joe more now than it was before. Oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, it still very much feels like a reference to the departure of her relationship with Calvin Harris, like definitely. But I could also see her potentially having current struggles with Joe that are feeling the same as what it was with Calvin Harris, and then maybe tapping into her current feelings being very similar to what it was then, and kind of being like, wow, I feel like I care way more than you do, and you're trying to dull my shine. And I think that was probably both of those relationships that it was happening in. So I think, and especially, you know, with You're Losing Me, like, do something, fight for me, but clearly just kind of tolerating her. Ooh, I said it, tolerating her. Okay, Labyrinth. Now, let's all forget or put aside the new feelings we have for Labyrinth, right? Because she sang it basically right before Travis Kelce was going to her show as a surprise song, and clearly looked extremely happy singing it. So I am obviously going to think of Labyrinth in a new lovely light from now on. But this one, when I was listening to it this past week, really hit me as whoa, could be about Joe, but more specifically, like, about Joe in their current situation and their current struggles they were having. And by the way, whenever I'm referencing current, obviously I think we all know I mean like during the creation of Midnights. It only hurts this much right now was what I was thinking the whole time. Breathe in, breathe through, breathe deep, breathe out. I'll be getting over you my whole life. I feel like that could, I mean, I don't know, again, maybe similar to what we were talking about in the 1989 episode, like I didn't realize how strongly she felt for Harry Styles until the vault tracks, but like that feels like a very serious, like I'll be getting over you my whole life, feels like more than her, 3-month to a year relationships to me. Okay. The chorus is really what made me think maybe it was about their current struggles. Uh-oh, I'm falling in love. Oh no, I'm falling in love again. Oh, I'm falling in love. I thought the plane was going down. How do you turn it right around? I think, like before, I just kept thinking that this was more of like she had been having such struggles in prior relationships, and then, whoa, Joe is making her believe in love again. Like meeting Joe and getting into it with Joe is making her believe in love again. But now I'm looking at this as like, was she falling in love with Joe again as they were breaking down as their relationship was breaking down, right? Like I mentioned, good nights or good days and bad days in their relationship as it was having struggles for however many years. Was Labyrinth built from those good days where maybe for the weeks prior she felt, oh, he's ignoring me, he doesn't want anything to do with me, like blah blah blah. But then something sweet happens, or they have a few really good days in a row where, uh-oh, I'm falling in love again. I thought the plane was going down. How'd you turn it right around? Like I was thinking this maybe was the final straw, but here you are maybe showing up for me again, or doing something that makes me remember how good we used to have it, which again could probably make a breakup last way longer than it should. It only feels this raw right now, lost in the labyrinth of my mind. Break up, break free, break through, break down. You would break your back to make me break a smile. This feels like, it only feels this raw right now, lost in the labyrinth of my mind. Break up, break free, break through, break down. Feels like her internal struggle, right? Like her feeling all these feelings and thinking all these thoughts about how this relationship is falling apart and like, what am I going to do about it? Like, and sometimes we overthink in our own brains, right? Like maybe in her head, she's like, oh, this is over. Like we can't, but she's not really maybe communicating that all to Joe. But then he does something that makes her remember, okay, you do care about me. Because I don't think it's ever a question of if Joe cared about her, right? I think it's more of you got complacent with where we were, and you got complacent around me, and I'm going through all these thoughts, lost in the labyrinth of my mind. Break up, break free, break through, break down. Like, I think she was literally going through all of those thoughts of like, oh my God, it's over. And then, he does something to turn it right around. I thought the plane was going down. How'd you turn it right around? So now I do think maybe Labyrinth was a song about literally the ups and downs of her relationship with Joe. Like every time she thought, okay, that's probably it, this is probably the last straw, there would be something good that kept it going, or like a big fight and a break, but then something good happened and they were back and they had a good day, they were happy. I think that's what Labyrinth is to me now. And then obviously the original thought I had of Labyrinth, that, oh, Joe made her believe in love again after all her other relationships. Now I think that's what I think of Labyrinth with Travis Kelce, right? Like the original thought I had of Labyrinth and what it was about feels true to me now with her relationship with Travis Kelce. The original reason she wrote it now to me feels like it was about just the constant ups and downs of her relationship with Joe, and how every time she thought maybe that was it, that was the last piece. Oh, nope, we're back. So anyway, Labyrinth was honestly the biggest one that I was looking at, thinking about in a whole new light, honestly, that it wasn't the initial stages of Joe and falling in love with him then. It's the fact that she might have been in the last months to years of her relationship with Joe falling in and out of love because of their struggles. Thought the plane was going down. How'd you turn it right around? I mean, what the heck? So I'm going to skip Karma, because obviously Karma does have to me, Karma's probably, Karma is really about her, but Karma is my boyfriend. I think she probably wrote that in a good headspace. And so I'm going to skip it. Sweet Nothing is so interesting now, mainly because Taylor herself might have given us a reference to Sweet Nothing not being about Joe. And that came around the same time that that Jack released. The You're Losing Me picture. So we all know that Taylor Swift and Paul McCartney know each other, and they did an interview together in Rolling Stone, I think, kind of pandemic time. So she knows Paul McCartney. Sweet Nothing she wrote with Joe, obviously. So all of us kind of assumed it was about Joe. So You're Losing Me comes out on streaming. Jack Antonoff releases that it was written in 2021. Taylor Swift likes a tweet from 2022 when Midnights came out that talks about specific lyrics in Sweet Nothing that remind them of an interview of Paul McCartney talking about his wife, specifically the "you say what a mind" kind of a thing. She liked that tweet literally in the last week or two, which is just adding fuel to the fire of some of the songs on Midnights that we thought were about Joe and about their happy love not being about him at all, or being about him, but more so that Sweet Nothing was not, right? Like she's implying, yep, that's where but maybe she's saying that's where I got the line from. That's what I thought of it. But to me, that was a pretty direct, you're right. Sweet Nothing, I actually wrote about Paul McCartney and his wife. And I think someone said that like the part about Wicklow, I guess Paul McCartney and his wife were in Wicklow at some point, but again, an interesting one for sure. Okay, so let's get into Mastermind. I think we all kind of have said that seems to be about fans, not really about Joe. And I do, believe that. So let's get into The Great War. This one's interesting to me because I think it definitely has always been a Joe song, right? Because she does reference being in the battles with him, like going to battle with him and fighting through the war to come out happy. And again, in You're Losing Me, fighting in only your army, front lines, don't you ignore me. She references battles and wars in her relationship with Joe, which is just kind of funny, I guess, now that you think about it. So this one's weird again, like similar to Labyrinth, where like at first I thought The Great War was battling through her, silent year, that 2016 to 2017 pre-Reputation, just like awfulness of the Kim and Kanye downfall. That's what I was thinking of The Great War for a while, but now I could, again, like it could take a different term of some of this not necessarily being so old. Like they weren't fighting this battle so long ago. Like maybe The Great War, they were still in it. Like it's still something that was going on. Sucker punching walls, cursed you as and this is also why I think I kind of thought of it. Some of the lyrics in The Great War almost felt like to me, if The Great War was about the situation I thought it was about originally, about going underground after Kanye, he was the one that brought her out of it, fought the battles with her, whatever. Some of the lyrics feel a little bit too like, not negative towards Joe. I wouldn't really call it that, but like, my knuckles were bruised like violets, sucker punching walls, cursed you as I sleep talked, spineless in my tomb of silence, tore your banners down, took the battle underground. Maybe it was egos swinging, maybe it was her. Flashes of the battle come back to me in a blur. Like, sucker punching walls, cursed you as I sleep talked. If this is a song directed towards Joe, that doesn't relate to the Kanye thing to me, right? Or the battle underground did, but maybe it was egos swinging, maybe it was her. Like, is that a reference to her being insecure about somebody he knew? Like it just, and then all that bloodshed, crimson clover, sweet dream was over, my hand was the one you reached for, all throughout The Great War. Always remember tears on the letter, I vowed not to cry anymore if we survived the Great War. Like this, honestly, like, and I will preface it again, all speculation. We do not know anything, and take this all with tons of grains of salt, like literally pounds of salt. It's almost like maybe the first, if their first few years were completely happy, like no problem, maybe there was a big event, right? Something happened that caused them to get rocky. And it's almost like this is what she's singing about in The Great War. The big fight that caused the first crack in the glass. Something happened, they got in a huge fight, and this song was sort of about like, if we can get through this, I will be with you forever. That's kind of what it feels like to me now that I think about it, and now that I'm reading it in a different view of their relationship timeline. Maybe there was something, they were on a break at some point, and then this is sort of being like, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. I vow not to cry anymore if we survive the Great War. Like, if we get through this, we can do it. Like, we can make it. So then you drew up some good faith treaties. I drew curtains closed, drank my poison all alone. You said I have to trust more freely, but diesel is desire. You were playing with fire. And maybe it's the past that's talking, screaming from the crypt, telling me to punish you for things you never did. So I justified it. This honestly sounds like it's someone who thinks their boyfriend is cheating on them. And then truly their boyfriend probably not cheating on them, but they have so many insecurities of things happening in the past that they're projecting them onto their boyfriend. And that's the reason they'll get into a fight or bring it up or be insecure about it. You, like, he was trying, you drew up some good faith treaties. I drew curtains closed, drank my poison all alone. I wasn't having it. You said I have to trust more freely. Like, trust me. But diesel is desire. You were playing with fire. Like, is there somebody that was around that was like the her in the song? Like, was there someone that that Taylor felt insecure about in his life? Maybe it's the past that's talking, screaming from the crypt. Maybe it's because of her past experiences that she feels this way about something going on in their relationship and punishing you for things you never did. So I justified it. And then it kind of talks like, again, turned into something bigger. Somewhere in the haze, got a sense I'd been betrayed. Your finger on my hairpin triggers, soldier down. Look up at me with honor and truth, broken and blue. So I called off the troops. That was the night I nearly lost you. I really thought I'd lost you. This feels like maybe her being like, yup, you did something, you cheated, whatever it might have been. I'm done. And then maybe him like she got a sense she'd been betrayed. Like, but maybe him finally getting through to her that he's not a threat to her. He loves her. He trusts you can trust her, honor and truth. Like, and then I called off the troops. That was the night I nearly lost you. I really thought I lost you. That's a huge line to me now that I think about it. Like, maybe that was the night I nearly lost you. Were they basically almost broken up at a certain point? And then maybe Taylor was like, oh, hell no, I can't. I don't want this to end. Like, I will get over my insecurities and be fine. Because then this could have totally altered the way they were in their relationship, right? Like, if she was feeling like something was going on, she didn't trust him, and then she was building it up in her head to be this huge thing that at the very end, or not at the very end, but like to this point, literally almost broke them up. Think about how much power that gives him afterwards. And again, maybe it's from experience, but think about how much power he then has to be like, you didn't trust me. You almost ended this because you were so like insecure about X, Y, or Z. Now it almost is like he has the higher ground in a battle, right? Like, he can set, like, almost gaslight wine she was drinking while she was drinking, losing me, like almost gaslight her into being like, I don't know, like into thinking you were the one that almost broke us up. You were the one that almost ruined this. I didn't do anything wrong. So like, maybe then a lot of her fears about this relationship began to internalize because she no longer wanted to communicate them out because she almost lost him once because of it, that she would internalize them. And then that is when she would go through the highs and lows of their relationship. I don't know. This one's weird now. I just like, we will never go back. Like, my hand was the one you reached for. Like, burned for better. I vow I would always be yours because we survived the Great War. I vow I will always be yours. It literally is almost like she would never break up with him, right? After maybe this fight that she maybe instigated or caused, and that they almost broke up from that. So it was almost like maybe she was just like, no, I will never, ever initiate anything like this ever again. I will always be yours. And then who knows, again, if this is my theory and this is what, like, the timing of this, like, who knows how long then she was just kind of like, no, I will not leave him. We're good, even in the bad times, and like internalizing and writing You're Losing Me, probably never showing it to him, never putting it on an album because she's afraid to cause the pain again that would break them up. And almost like, okay, now that I did that, you have to be the one to end it at some point because I will, I vow I will always be yours. I don't know. It feels like for all my things, thinking about that being early relationship, fighting through her trust issues from the Kanye, Scooter Braun, all that kind of stuff. I'm almost thinking maybe it wasn't that, and it was more some sort of fight they were maybe continuing to have in their relationship, and the Great War being almost that point that they couldn't return from it, and it almost ended them. That's, I guess, maybe not what I'm thinking about it, since we know that they were struggling, they were struggling now. I'm going to skip Bigger Than the Whole Sky. This song, I'm just going to say, seems to be the reason that Tree Pain, or all the Tree Pain and Dumois stuff, like really irks me. And so I'm going to skip Bigger Than the Whole Sky. And then really the only other one I would have mentioned in here is probably, I already talked about Glitch. So I think, again, it's maybe talking about how that relation, like her and Joe's relationship, maybe was never really going to be more, but they really loved each other. They really fell in love with each other and pushed to be something more than maybe it ever was intended to be. And then I think that's really, and then I guess my only other thought with Dear Reader, I'm thinking of Dear Reader, is never take advice from someone who's falling apart. Like, I think this really hit home even when it first came out, of like, we don't know what she's going through, right? Like, we don't know her struggles unless she's telling them to us in a song. But like, now when you think about it from the fact that You're Losing Me was written a year and a half before the album, or a year before Midnights even came out, a year and a half before they broke up, like, or officially announced they broke up, like, she was falling apart. Maybe she was coming, like, building herself back together, and maybe Joe was there in the good, like, they were building back together as well in these times, but she clearly was hurting for a long time. So I think that's kind of just one thing I thought about with Dear Reader. And then Hits Different. I mean, Hits Different's crazy. To me, again, Hits Different might be one that was written during a bad time, maybe after their big battle, their Great War. Maybe this was during a break, if they had a break, and, you know, she's upset about it. Because the one thing in Hits Different that always kind of confused me, if I wasn't thinking about it in the context of Joe, was I hear your key turn in the door down the hallway. Is that your key in the door? Is it okay? Is it you, or have they come to take me away? This one always confused me because she never lived with boyfriends that before Joe, like, especially, I mean, maybe Calvin Harris, right, would be the only one that could have potentially been a boyfriend she shared a key with in the hallway, like, you know. So to me, it was like, oh, this might have been after a big fight with Joe, or maybe they took a little bit of a break, like threw up in the street, like, I don't know. Catastrophic Blues, she does reference his blue eyes a lot in her song, so it definitely could be, a bad time with Joe. But yeah, the key in the hallway thing really is what always made me be confused by Hits Different, because it made me feel like, wait, I feel like the only person she ever lived with was Joe, so I don't know what this is, you know? Anyway, okay, I'm done looking at Midnights. Again, I know people get mad at speculation on different things because, you know, whatever, but at the same time, like, now that we got this little tidbit from Jackie Boy, like, I just felt like I needed to look at some of the songs on Midnights again, and some of them seem different to me. Obviously, I think the biggest ones being Bejeweled, Labyrinth, The Great War, and Hits Different. I just feel those songs differently now. And again, Labyrinth, especially because of Travis, but in terms of her context of when she wrote them and when they were released, they seem different to me now, knowing when You're Losing Me was written. So yeah, I just, listen to those four again. Well, not Bejeweled. We kind of all talked about it. Listen to Labyrinth, The Great War, and Hits Different, and see if maybe you're feeling the same way as I am, because I'm kind of confused now. And I just honestly feel really sad that You're Losing Me was written in 2021, because it makes me sad that she was struggling for a while. But at the same time, it makes me happy that we really do see her being happy, or seemingly looking very happy right now, and happy in her current relationship. So I guess that's the good thing in it all. Like, she was struggling for a while, but seems to maybe be in something that's really good for her. And she, like she said on the tour at one point, she's the happiest she'd ever been. And I don't think that's gotten, or that's really changed since Travis came into the picture. So hopefully our girl is happy now. But it is just sad. But shout out to her being the Spotify Global Artist that started this whole drama this past week. I still can't believe all the stuff we were getting. That was so crazy. Next time we'll talk about probably more of the Travis Kelce stuff, the Dumois versus Tree Pain stuff, and then anything Steph notices that I might have missed in my word vomit that this episode was. This is probably more of like a mini-sode. But anyway, I think I'm done and you can pick all your things back up because I'm dropping my mic. Peace.